Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to the Strictly Business Podcast with Jon Stanko and Mike Ritz.
Y'all ready for this?
It's not personal. It's strictly business.
Welcome, everyone, to the third episode of the Strictly Business Podcast. Jon Stanko here, being joined by Mike Ritz. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing okay on this fine evening, Johnny. How are you?
I'm sure you're doing well. The Mets just pulled out a W, and as you mentioned before we got started, only 4 games below 500 for your Mets. So playing well at the end of the season for you.
So happy.
We're actually going to talk a little baseball in this podcast a little bit later on, do a little bit of a playoff, a postseason push, which teams are faltering, which teams are trying to make it to the playoffs. So we're going to look forward to that later in the podcast. But we have to start off with the topic that's frankly not only dominated sports headlines for the past 2 days, it's dominated national headlines, Good Morning America, CNN, everything you could think of. It's this Ray Rice scandal that has the NFL, their pants are on fire, and they're running around trying to control a brush fire that's blowing in the wind, and nothing is going to calm this down right now. Mike Ritz, this is, for me, the biggest, I'd say, sports scandal, I think, since Jerry Sandusky. It's obviously on a different level, but it's the biggest in my lifetime of the NFL, and it's absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's kind of breathtaking to watch the video. I only saw it once. I only needed to see it once. It's not something I really needed to see again. It was kind of horrific to say. Kind of at a loss for words, but it's tough because I don't know about you, Stink. I liked Ray Rice. He was a good dude, especially being a New Rochelle guy. Us two being Iona guys, we knew all the work he's done for, New Rochelle High School and all the work he's done, all the charity work he's done in New Rochelle. But it's just an unfortunate, incident that really, really took a hold of the NFL, and it makes this whole thing makes the NFL look so bad.
Oh, it makes them look there's no worse way you could look, frankly, to be honest with you. I can't imagine an organization, $1 billion organization, and that organization's leader looking worse than they can right now. When I first saw the video, I was shocked. When you knew that she was unconscious, Ray Rice was dragging her out of the elevator, when you saw that hallway angle, you could say, all right, maybe something happened and it wasn't so abrupt or something like that. Granted, it looked really bad, but there was questions. And then you see inside the elevator what happened, and it's disgusting. There's no other way to describe it. It's unacceptable in every way, shape, and form. And more things just come out. It was reported that Ray Rice also spit on her during the whole thing. That's not physical harm, but it's disrespectful. And I agree with you. He's a hero of New Rochelle. Everyone knows him in New Rochelle. People have hung out with him, especially at the local bar. They took pictures. He's been great to everyone there. But now so many things change, perspective changes, and he is out of the NFL. He was essentially fired by the Baltimore Ravens around 2 p.m. after TMZ released in the morning the footage of the elevator. And then the NFL, I think in a really cowardly way, then indefinitely suspended him after the Ravens cut him. For me, that was a coward's way out by the NFL.
Yeah, no matter what the NFL does now, it just doesn't look good, because the whole point was originally when we saw the first video of just Ray Rice dragging his then fiance, now wife, out of the elevator. They just decided to give him just a 2-game suspension. It was an outcry for a lot of people. They didn't think that the 2 games was enough, and then when this came out, everyone had a problem with it. And I think, like you said, the first video, it showed her being unconscious, but I don't think anybody really thought that it was a close-fisted left hook that Ray Rice gave her. And I think that's the problem with it, too. But it makes the NFL look bad because they have to go back and now just kind of re-suspend Ray Rice, which is also bad. So, I mean, no matter which way you look at it, the NFL looks bad in the situation.
Yeah, and it looks worse today. The NFL, after the footage came out, it was yesterday that's happening so fast, or was it a couple days ago? Everything has blended together. The NFL said they had never seen that footage previously. Roger Goodell said, I had never seen that footage. But then today, a police official went to the AP News and said that we sent them this footage 3 months ago, and we got a reply, and we have a taped voicemail saying that they got it, saying proof that they received it. And the NFL now has said that they never got to see the footage, and they will look into it. And I think it's key to point out that Roger Goodell never said that he never saw the footage. He said the NFL never saw the footage. I think that's very important to point out because, I mean, if he said he didn't see it, then he has a kind of a cop-out. But now he said his whole organization that he's in charge of never got a chance to view the footage before, originally only suspending him the dreaded 2 games, or I don't want to say dreaded, but only 2 games. So now the NFL, what do you do if you're the NFL right now? You're continuing to deny the fact that you've seen it, yet everybody, I think everybody, thinks that you're lying.
Yeah, it's tough because no matter which way you look at it, like we keep saying, if the NFL looks bad, whether they didn't see the video and everyone's saying, like, how did you not have this evidence? You have your own investigative groups to kind of handle these matters. And so it looks bad if they never were able to get the video. It looks bad if they did get the video and watched it and still only decided to give him 2 games. It looks bad all around. So, and it looks bad now if they did get sent the video and no one saw it. So no matter what story the NFL gives, it's not going to make it any better. So it's interesting to see. I mean, it's the question arises is if it ends up being true that the NFL got this video a couple months ago, saw it while they were trying to figure out the suspension of Ray Rice, and tried to slide this under the rug. I mean, I think originally I didn't think Goodell's job was going to be in jeopardy, but with this coming out saying that there's a slight chance that the NFL did have the video and they have watched this video, I mean, it's going to be hard for Goodell to stay afloat here.
Yeah, I really think that the owners should bond together and say, listen, Goodell, you murdered this. You murdered this whole entire thing. This whole entire process with Ray Rice has been a butcher since the beginning, when it began of him questioning Ray Rice's wife with Ray Rice in the room. Everyone knows, I mean, it's common sense that if in a domestic abuse case you don't put the 2 parties in the same room when questioning about the incident. I think everyone would know that, even if you're not a lawyer. And he botched it from the beginning. And then only the 2 games, everyone got outraged, and now this. I think somehow he survived, and I hate to say it, but I have a gut feeling that somehow he's going to survive, because he said he's not going to resign. He said that in a quote. He's like, I'm not going to resign no matter how much the pressure. And I don't think the owners are going to be able to band together and say, we want you out, get out of office, because he has brought them so much money and so much success. I don't know if there's an owner or a series of owners who can rally enough troops to get him out of office.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because the only real way to kind of push a commissioner out isn't fans, isn't coaches. Unfortunately, it probably stinks to hear this, but it comes down to the owners. When the owners aren't happy with a commissioner, that's when the commissioner gets pushed out. When you have a ban of owners, kind of like what they did with Donald Sterling, not comparing the 2 situations, but this is what happened. The owners got behind the commissioner to get rid of Donald Sterling. So owners band together with the commissioner to get an owner out. This time the owners would have to band together and say, look, you technically work for us, and we don't want you here anymore. So I agree. I think in the past day, Goodell's seat definitely got hotter, but I still see him being the commissioner of the NFL just because there's just so much money involved in this that I believe that he'll he'll stay afloat here. And yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation that it seems like the entire world is covering right now.
Yeah, and if anyone hasn't seen Keith Olbermann address this situation, he did a fantastic job calling for everyone involved to resign. I admit I'm not always a huge fan of Keith Olbermann, but his monologue on his show regarding the situation was absolutely fantastic. And I think he came out with another one today with the new evidence coming out that the NFL might have had the footage. I think he came out with a new video as well, but I haven't seen it. But I strongly recommend everyone to go watch that video. And Mike, I'm also curious, how do you think the NFL is going to address the situation tomorrow on Thursday Night Football with Baltimore playing in the game? CBS has their first Thursday night game. All eyes are going to be on CBS, the Baltimore Ravens, when they play the Steelers. How do you think CBS, the NFL, are going to address this?
I don't know. That's a really good question because in one way, they might just go about their business and just do the game and not bring it up. But I don't think you can. I don't think there's an opportunity where you can't bring it up. I think that their pregame show's probably gonna mention it. I'd be surprised if they didn't. I'm surprised if Ravens head coach John Harbaugh doesn't get these questions before the game. And we'll see how I'm more interested to see how the team's going to respond tomorrow night when they play. I mean, it's a big game. They're playing the Steelers, divisional rival. Had a lot going on with this team this past week. Let's see how they kind of bear down and play because it's obviously I guess a nuisance in the locker room right now, and all this circulating, all these questions throughout the week about what they think of their teammate, of their now former teammate Ray Rice, and I'm more interested to see that, how the Ravens are going to bounce back and how they're going to respond to this crazy week that it's been around the NFL. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're CBS, you really gotta. I mean, it's going to get mentioned, but I don't think they're going to have. I don't think it's going to be a huge mention. They'll mention it for a couple minutes, but I don't think it's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and draw away from it and talk strictly football, which I think is the proper thing to do. But if they ignore all of it, then they're making a big mistake. And I'm kind of worried that the NFL, seeing how they granted the rights to CBS to do Thursday night games, I'm kind of worried if the NFL is going to try and make a push or something to have someone speak on the NFL's behalf. Like on the pregame show, if they're going to have, we have so-and-so from the NFL office to join us now. If they do something like that, I'm going to be absolutely furious. And if they have someone join someone during the game in the booth, I'll be even more mad because I hate that. I hate that all around. Whenever they have a celebrity join, let's have so-and-so join us now, the celebrity, and like I don't know if you saw Eminem did a half-an interview with Brent Musburger. I think it was last year.
Oh, that's something to see. Whoever hasn't seen that, you got to YouTube it. I mean, I want to go off topic, but he was so out of it. It was the most awkward thing I've ever seen.
Absolutely hilarious. This is a complete sidetrack on a completely different note. But that was the most hilarious and awkward interview Brent Musburger has ever done. And I strictly think that Eminem knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, me too. Like, I just felt like when you saw it, it was like two worlds were colliding.
Yeah.
Eminem and Brent Musburger, like complete opposite ends of the spectrum in a little booth doing an interview. Oh, it was that was great.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of happy thoughts on this rather not happy topic of Ray Rice in the NFL. So everyone should go YouTube that for a little smile and make sure you're not as awkward as Eminem and Brent Musburger. But listen, to wrap this Ray Rice thing up, I don't think Ray Rice should ever be allowed back in the league. Roger Goodell said that he's open to reinstatement because obviously Michael Vick got let back in. But I think that with everything that's been done, I don't think Ray Rice should be let back in. And I think that even if he was to be granted the ability left in, nobody is going to touch him. He is kryptonite. He's stronger than kryptonite. Nobody is going to touch him, any NFL team, if he's ever even allowed the chance to reinstate.
I mean, never say never, Stanko, because unfortunately in the NFL, it's not like he's the only criminal. I mean, the NFL is notorious for having guys commit violent crimes. I'm not saying he's going to get admitted right away or reinstated right away, but I mean, I would be surprised if a team picked him up, within the next 2 years or so. But I mean, never say never, because I mean we've talked about it between Michael Vick, between Dante Stallworth, Josh Brent. You got all these guys, Henry, a lot of these guys kind of do the wrong thing or be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it is a horrific act with what Ray Rice did. But the fact of the matter is that he's a really good player, and it's sad to say, but I think teams, if he can help a team win, if a team believes that he can help their team win that year, he might get a look. I mean, I raised the question today. I was just thinking to myself, like, God, I mean, what would happen if this happened to a player like Adrian Peterson or Calvin Johnson right now? You know what I mean? Or Andrew Luck, or any of these guys, one of the better players in the league, and they got suspended indefinitely. When they get reinstated, do you think somebody would let them back in the league? I mean, I think with their athletic ability, I think eventually he would be put back in the league. I mean, I don't know how you see it, Stanko, but I think of it that way. I mean, it's terrible to think to reinstate a player like that, but if a team really believes that he can help a team win, I bet your team will give him a look.
Listen, unfortunately, I agree with you. I don't think it should happen, and I really hope it doesn't.
Yeah, that is a crazy PR move. It is a crazy PR move, and I don't want to see it either. As much as I like Ray Rice, I wouldn't really want to see him in the league either. And I think even if he did get reinstated, it'd be a rough road for him. So I don't think
he'd get booed by his home crowd. It'd be like Michael Vick getting signed by Philly getting
get back to normal, and I don't think that he should be back in the league. But the NFL is all about getting wins, and like I said, if he can help a team win, if a team believes that he can help their team win, he might get a look. He might get a look because the NFL has given second chances to people recently. So I mean, Ray Rice isn't the only guy to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the NFL is in hot water. Roger Goodell's in hot water, and this storyline it still has legs. It's going to be going for a long time. So we'll see where this Ray Rice storyline heads up down the road. But Mike, let's rewind a little bit to last Sunday before this whole Ray Rice situation truly exploded.
Who would have thought a story would trump the opening weekend of NFL?
Yeah,
that's how big and like it's just sad how the Ray Rice just trumped the opening weekend of the NFL. That's how bad of an act it was. That is completely everyone's talking about this story as they should because it's terrible, but it just trumped the opening weekend of the NFL.
Yep. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you, a lot of interesting things happened week one. What were one or a couple of things that really stuck out to you?
What stuck out to me was, I mean, I hate to say I told you so, Stanko, but there was a couple of I told you so moments in week one.
I believe I have a couple as well. So
you do.
Don't worry.
My first one is going to be look at the Tennessee Titans with their victory over the Chiefs.
Yes.
The Titans. I mean, I really believe that the Titans are a good football team, and they have a lot of assets that put together they can be a good football team, and they showed that against the Chiefs. Granted, no way did I think the Chiefs were going to lose to Tennessee at home, but that was definitely something to look at. And then the second one, I mean, it was a no-brainer from the last podcast. Even without Cam Newton, the Panthers were beating the Bucs, and they did.
All right, well, I have a couple told you so as well. First of all, that late Monday night game, which honestly may have been the best game of the week, or arguably most entertaining, the Cardinals defeating the Chargers. You picked the Chargers in that game, so told you so there. And also, I'm going to put you on the spot. Your lock of the week lost.
My lock of the week won. I had the Steelers. They won. They beat the Browns.
No, you had the Bears. I thought you had the Bears.
I had the Steelers.
Oh, my God. Yes, you are correct.
I had the Steelers.
Dirty, fucking, stinking correct person. Oh, you almost lost. You almost.
It was close. I mean, I was looking good at half. It was 27-3 at half, and Browns came all the way back. But my lock of the week won.
Yes, you did. I am wrong. I am mistaken. I
will say this, though. So like I said, I was surprised at the Chiefs, but Stanko, what about your Patriots? I mean,
okay.
I just this has to be brought up. A lot of people are talking about your Patriots as a Super Bowl pick. It is just one game, but how concerned are you with the loss in Miami?
Let me step on my soapbox, if you will, and prepare myself. This game, while it is only one game, and while we have struggled in Miami for a long time, frankly, the Patriots struggle in Miami, there are obvious concerns for me. The fact of the matter is our offensive line looked absolutely horrendous, and I think that it raises the importance of the loss of Logan Mankins in that trade, because that offensive line had no identity in the second half. Miami ran all over them. Brady was under pressure. And also, Brady just looked bad in the second half. He didn't look like he didn't even look like an okay quarterback. He looked bad. He looked Ryan Fitzpatrick-esque. He had so many bad overthrows. He had Edelman wide open on a flag route and overthrew him by 3 yards. I think it would have been like a 30, 35-yard game, just overthrew him. It was awful. He had his calf injury. He didn't blame it, and I don't blame the calf injury either, because Brady's on the injury report every single week. But our rush defense was awful. They averaged over 5 yards a carry, and this week we have to go against Adrian Peterson, the best running back in the game. We have to go up against them, against the Vikings, who look really damn good against St. Louis and that good St. Louis defense. They look really damn good. So I am worried. I officially am on the worry list. I am not panicked because it is only one game, but I am worried heading into week 2 because we are on the road against the best running back in football when Notron Moreno just absolutely torched us for the entire game. So there's my piece. I am worried, and I think this game with Minnesota is going to be very, very close. And I'm worried, Mike. There's worries in my voice.
And it was a divisional game, and not to mention the Bills and the Jets won as well this week. So all 3 teams in your division won, except the Patriots. This gotta be. I wonder when the last time the Patriots were in dead last, solely last in their division. I wonder when the last time that happened.
Yeah, I don't know, but I will say this: that the last time the Patriots lost opening day was 2003 against Drew Bledsoe and the Buffalo Bills, and that year the New England Patriots went on to go win the Super Bowl. So that is my sliver of hope.
And I would also like to go back to this Monday night game, which you so-called picked the Cardinals and won. The Chargers lost that game way, way more than the Cardinals won.
I could not agree with you more. The San Diego Chargers played awful.
I was more surprised. First of all, I was surprised at how low-scoring the game was, especially in the first half. Two pretty good offenses. It was a defensive struggle. Chargers up 17-6 in the fourth quarter. Have the ball. Cardinals have the ball in the fourth quarter. Right off the bat, they score. So it's 17-12. They don't get the 2-point conversion. Rivers comes out. They dilly-dally. This, that, and the other thing happens. All of a sudden, the ball's on the 30-yard line. I'm like, Arizona, 30-yard line in field goal range. Kick-up field goal will be an 8-point game.
Yep.
About 4 minutes to go. If you kick that field goal, I think it's likely the Chargers win that game.
Yeah.
And I don't even know whether he took his eyes off the ball or it slipped through his hand. Rivers just never ceases to amaze us, and the ball, he fumbles it. It goes all the way back outside of field goal range. It was third down, and it forced them to punt to give the ball back. And sure enough, Carson Palmer marched right down the field and they scored. But oh man, the Rivers did a lot of bad things in that fourth quarter. I was really happy. I mean, I didn't mind getting the pick wrong because, I mean, as anybody knows me, I hate Rivers, so it was really nice to watch. But I mean, that's a really, really bad loss for the Chargers.
Yeah, that loss is so disheartening, and now they need to. Now they are at home against Seattle. Seattle, who had extra time off because they play on the opening Thursday to prepare for San Diego. So I mean, I think San Diego's going to start 0-2 and in a really tough division with a lot of teams going to be vying for that AFC wild card. That's not a good start for them at all. And listen, Phillip Rivers, that fumble that he had, that snap, he was doing so much at the line of scrimmage, adjusting. Like I'm obviously adjusting the offensive line protection and hot routes, whatever. Now I think he was just doing too much, and it cost him. So I mean, it's crazy, the pros and cons of a quarterback having all that control, and then he has too much, and it's a huge costly loss of yards. But I mean, I was happy because that game was so low scoring that I was able to pull out a huge fantasy W after being projected to so started off my year correctly at 1-0 in our league with a 0.4 point victory over Matthew McGinnity. Very clutch W for the commissioner.
That's tough. That's some crooked stuff there. A 0.4 victory, that screams crooked.
Yes. Yes, it does scream crooked. Yes, it does. Yeah, it was an interesting week one. Week two is coming up. Obviously, we're not going to do all of our picks for week two in this podcast, but before we move on, Mike, we should pick tomorrow's game. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens in Thursday Night Football. CBS on the call with Jim Nantz and Phil Simms, their first Thursday night game. It's a rivalry. It's a division game. The Ravens lost a close one to the Bengals, and the Steelers won a close one against the Browns that they almost blew. But they were able to get the dub. So who do you see coming out on top here in this division matchup?
This is a really tough game. I really think it's a really tough game to pick. First of all, a game in Baltimore. I understand that the Ravens have a lot going on this week, but you know what? They might be relieved that they're playing a football game finally on a Thursday. They probably lucked out that they're playing the Thursday night game, not the Sunday, because who knows what the story's going to be on Sunday with the story. But I think I can't not pick the Steelers, especially with Le'Veon Bell on the field still. He looked great. Him, Antonio Brown, Roethlisberger, they all had a really, really good first half against the Browns. They just sat back way too early against the Browns and kind of let them percolate a little bit in the second half. The Browns had a crazy no-huddle offense in the second half that the Steelers couldn't stop. But, I mean, I can't not pick the Steelers here. I think when on, I think the Steelers are the better team, and I think the Ravens are too inconsistent for me to pick them right now. So I think I'm playing it safe, almost picking the Steelers, because you don't know how the Ravens are going to be. You don't know how they're going to be able to come out against the Steelers. So I'm going to pick the Steelers for right now. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, I got the same thing. I got the Steelers. Listen, I think that to call this Ray Rice situation a distraction is one of the biggest understatements in recent sports history. I don't know how you can't be distracted, because every single question you're getting is not about the game you're playing. It's about the situation. And I mean, listen, that's honestly the biggest reason that I'm choosing the Steelers, because the Ravens are going to be so distracted. And it's a home game for Baltimore, and I'm really curious to see how the fans are, because they're the same fans that gave Ray Rice a standing ovation in training camp. I'm really curious to see how they'll react. Obviously, he's not going to be there, but if there are any Ray Rice chants that are started from those fans, I'm going to go ballistic watching the game if I even hear that on my TV set. But yeah, I'm going to go Steelers as well, 27-17.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even think it's going to. I think it's going to be about it's like a 16-10 game. I don't think there's going to be too much scoring going on here. But we'll see. I mean, I'm happy that the game's actually on regular TV. I'm happy CBS picked it up.
Yeah, because you don't have to deal with Mike Mayock.
Oh, how bad is he? But, you know, it's good that CBS picked it up. You're able to watch it like on any TV in the house. so it'll be good. I'm excited to see this game because you kind of saw a tale of two halves of the Steelers against the Browns. A great offensive and defensive display in the first half, and then the second half was the complete opposite. Just bad defense, bad offense. So I really want to take a look at the Steelers here and see what kind of team they're going to be, because I still think they are still my favorite to win that division. But they do have their defense does have some glaring issues that out of all teams the Browns kind of picked apart in that second half last week. So I'm interested to see how the Steelers are going to come back and play against a pretty good squad in the Ravens.
Yeah, and you got a first-hand look at the Pittsburgh Steelers-Cleveland Browns game because you were working that game at NBC Sports. Congratulations on the new gig. So you got to watch that one firsthand. So I just want to shout out to you.
I appreciate the plug. Yeah, I appreciate the plug. The first big day, I had the Steelers and the Browns. So yeah, I saw that firsthand. So that's probably why I'm a little more invested in it, just because I saw a lot. I obviously watched that whole game and saw a lot of the press conference afterwards. So the Steelers are and that's an exciting offense to watch. Antonio Brown is the truth. He is so good. The catches he makes are insane. But even just little 6-yard passes. They have a lot of explosive players on that Steelers team that make Big Ben look really good. On top of being really good. So Steelers are a fun team to watch, and I'm excited about the tomorrow night game.
Yeah, and before we move on to our Dutch League, it should be known that it was also developing today. The NFL and the Players Association are coming to a new agreement with the HGH drug testing, I guess you could say, agreement or something, which may affect the suspensions of Wes Welker, Orlando Scandrick, Josh Gordon, stuff like that. Frankly, there's not enough information out there that we could really talk about it, but it's developing. So everyone should keep an eye out for that as to when that gets passed or signed and what the result is on everyone else's suspension. So I think that's definitely something to keep in mind moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out. And I wonder if the Ray Rice situation will kind of help out players like Josh Gordon and Wes Welker. Just only in the sense that, like, look at what this dude did, and then compare it. I don't know if comparing it is right, but in the NFL's eyes, they might, and kind of compare it to why Josh Gordon got suspended for a year and why Wes Welker is suspended for 4 games right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the way kind of the timing of this can benefit Josh Gordon and Wes Welker and those players. But look, anytime for the Browns, anytime Josh Gordon get on the field would really benefit them. If Wes Welker gets healthy, because he's not only suspended, he's hurt. So let's see if he can, if that'd be a blessing in disguise for him to come back. I'm sure Peyton wouldn't mind to have one of his best receivers come back, especially towards the back end of the season when they're going to need him most. So that might be a big issue with some players. Some of the coaches is that Wes is going to play in some meaningful games.
Yeah. So
if the suspension is lifted, I don't think you're going to have to worry about the Browns playing in some big games towards the end of the season, because by the end of the season, they'll have 10 losses. So I don't think in Josh Gordon's situation it's going to be too big of a deal. But even say Cleveland has surprises everybody and really has a good season, and then they bring back Josh Gordon, who was suspended for a certain amount of games and is able to can play a playoff game. Just the chance of that happening, I think coaches might have a problem with. But
yes,
it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yes, that is definitely something to look forward to, I guess you could say, because good players will be returning to the field, but just interesting more, I think, for how the NFL will address the situation. You know what? We touched on some NFL. You just touched on some NBA. You know what? We're going to touch a third sport. We're diversifying here on the Strictly Business podcast. We're going to talk a little bit of Major League Baseball. Because guess what? The playoff race is starting to heat up. The regular season is coming to a close. You know which teams are good, which teams aren't at this point now. And now, Mike Ritz, obviously you're watching a little bit of baseball before this podcast started. Your Mets won. So now I ask you, what's really stood out to you in this past week in baseball? What are you looking forward to as this playoff race starts to come full swing?
I mean, this American League wild card race is very good. Is very, very good to watch. Just because, first of all, Oakland is playing. Oakland Athletics are playing like they don't even want to be in the playoffs right now. They lost. I think I read in the last 10 games they lost 7 of them. They've just been playing terrible baseball, but they still maintain that wild card spot, the top wild card spot. But this whole race between Kansas City and Detroit, very good. Seattle is right there. Between those 3 teams, Kansas City, Detroit, and Seattle, only a half game separates them. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. You have Toronto, Cleveland, and the Yankees still chomping at the bit there. So it's definitely something to look at. But then also in the National League wild card race, Frisco and Pittsburgh have, as of right now, the Giants and the Pirates have the top 2 wild card spots. But then Atlanta's just a game and a half out. Milwaukee's a game and a half out. The Miami Marlins are only 3.5 games back, and then Mike Ritz's New York Mets are still right there. They're still right there at 5.5 games back.
There's hope. There's hope.
There's hope. I'm saying people are saying the Yankees still have a shot. You're basically saying the Mets have a shot too, because we're generally in the same area. I think right now the Yankees won today, so they're 5 games out. The Mets are 5.5. So we have a shot too. We have a shot too. But yeah, no, these wild card races are insane because nobody wants to play that 1-game playoff. I think that's what it comes down to. Nobody wants their whole season to be decided by 1 game.
Yeah. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, you know me, Boston Red Sox fan. Our season's over. I went to the game last night. They lost. They got killed today as well. They're not even playing with any heart anymore. Dustin Pedroia is out for the year. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm rooting for a darling, and I'm rooting for the Kansas City Royals. Because this team doesn't do anything great, but they haven't had playoff success in so long. They're competing with the Detroit Tigers, who made that move for David Price, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, the division is theirs to lose now," and their pitching staff is unbeatable. But guess what? Verlander gets hurt. Price has pitched well, but they're not hitting that well. And right now, Kansas City is playing Detroit, and they're tied for the division lead. They're playing right now, and the score is 2-0 Kansas City in the top of the 9th. So it looks like they'll take a 1-game lead. But I am so curious to see what happens to the Kansas City Royals. And also, did the Pittsburgh Pirates come out of nowhere? Because I get the apps, I get the updates on my phone because my girlfriend's from Pittsburgh, and I've been to PNC Park, and I'm a big fan of Andrew McCutchen. And they seem like they lose every game that I look at, but yet somehow they're in the wild card as a second team. It seems to me like they come out of nowhere.
Yeah, they're just a team that nobody really talks about, and they're back in it again this year. They obviously had a good year last year, and they're going to be. It looks like that's still a tough race because Atlanta is always going to be Atlanta. So yeah. I think I still part of me still thinks Atlanta's going to find their way to get themselves into the playoffs. I will say Atlanta still has to play the Mets three times, so you never know. But
spoilers.
But yeah, no. Pittsburgh. I feel like nobody really talks about Pittsburgh, but it's going to be these next couple weeks are going to be interesting to see, especially with the wild card implications. It's really good baseball to watch.
Yeah. Also, can we talk about the decline of the Milwaukee Brewers, please? They have lost 4 in a row. They have lost 9 out of their last 10. They have just crumbled, and St. Louis has risen to the top, winning 7 of their last 10. The Brewers were hot for so long, and then everything just fell apart. Now, granted, at the beginning of the year when they were playing so well, I didn't think they'd be able to hold on to it, but they held on to it until after the All-Star break, and I started to be like, well, I'll be damned. Like, the Brewers can make the playoffs, and they were awful last year. But it boggles my mind that the Brewers are even – it's still like that they collapsed as badly as they did after being so good for so long.
Yeah, that's a great point. Baseball is a funny game, and when you get into a funk, sometimes it's really, really hard to get out. And the Brewers have been in a couple-month-long funk, and you can't be doing that when a team like the Cardinals, probably one of the best organizations in baseball, is
the best organization in baseball. The best organization from top down to bottom of baseball.
Yeah, they just always do the right thing, and it's a tough team to keep down. So if you're going to continue to lose, you better, you know if the Cardinals are going to come back and play well. So yeah, the Brewers really have really been on the decline, and they're playing themselves out of a playoff spot. And they're in that mix in the National League wild card spot where nothing's guaranteed right now. But I would be surprised if Milwaukee makes the playoffs because right now Miami, the Marlins are playing better than the Braves are playing better than them. So I'd be surprised if Milwaukee gets that second playoff spot.
I agree. And also, in the American League, a talking point for me is how good does Robinson Cano feel right now going to the Mariners? Most likely going to have a better chance of making the wild card than the New York Yankees, the team that he left. How good does he feel right now?
I mean, I think he'll feel good if he makes the playoffs this year. A lot of work to be done, but yeah, I think a lot of people were giving him flack for going to Seattle because they didn't think that his career ended by going to Seattle. Meanwhile, he's fighting for a wild card spot just like the Yankees are. So, I mean, I unfortunately know to never count out the Yankees, so I'm not counting them out yet. But Seattle is right now in a better situation than the Yankees are. The thing that's getting the Yankees and obviously getting the Mets is that there's a lot of teams ahead of them. They may be only 5 or 5.5 games back, but when you have 4 or 5 different teams ahead of you, it's so hard to continue to move up. So in the last couple weeks of the season, in these last 20 games of the year, you really need, from top to bottom, if you're a team fighting for a playoff spot, you really need to play your best baseball right now and try to win, go 15-5 in your next 20 games because it's so hard, especially if you are on the bottom trying to get that second wild card spot. There's only so much room you can move up. You really got to play some flawless baseball in these last 20 games.
Yeah. So all right. So now I'm going to put you on the spot. Who are going to be the 2 wild card teams from each division? Each league, American League, National League. Excuse me.
And well, I think Detroit's going to win the division.
Okay.
So, which leaves Kansas City fighting for a playoff spot. Man, this is tough. I think Oakland's definitely going to get the first wild card. So it's Oakland and, I mean, just because I would love to see them, I would love to see Kansas City make it. So I'm going to say Kansas City, but gun to my head, I think it's going to be Seattle, and I think Kansas City is going to get edged out. So gun to my head, I think it's going to be Oakland and Seattle in those last 2, and Kansas City is going to get pushed out towards the end of the year, which I'm going to be sad about. But I think Kansas City, I think Seattle has great hitting, and I think that's what's going to drive Seattle into the playoffs. And so that's my American League. What about you?
In my American League, I got Oakland in that top spot. I agree with you. I think that their pitching is going to be too good down the stretch, and that they'll get the wild card. And then listen, if they win that play-in game, if you got to face Oakland in a series, you're scared just because you know how dominant their starting pitching can be. So, I mean, the thing is that they're going to be forced to play that one play-in game where anything can happen. But I think that they'll get that first game, that first wild card. And then for me, I have the Royals winning the division over the Tigers. I'll let that be known because if you look at Kansas City's schedule, they got the Red Sox next, who are terrible. They got the White Sox, who are terrible. Then they got the Tigers again, and then they got the Indians. So two division teams that are going to be tough matchups. But then they end the season against the White Sox. So they got three series with bad teams, and then they got a 2 series with division rivals who are also fighting for playoff spots. So I think they'll be forced to compete in those 2 big divisions, and they'll get wins against the easy teams. So that leaves Seattle and Detroit. I don't think the Yankees or Toronto are getting in. I think I'm going to axe them out. And I'm going to be honest, I think that Seattle is going to get that second wild card. I agree with you. And I think that Detroit's going to be left in the dust and wondering how they possibly didn't make the playoffs with David Price, Max Scherzer, and that starting rotation. I think that's going to be the end result.
That'd be a crazy instance if Kansas City bumps Detroit out of the playoffs. You have Detroit. I have Detroit winning the division. You have Kansas City winning the division. And so what we're basically saying is if you don't win that division, you are out of the playoffs because we both have faith in Seattle. So if you don't win the AL Central, you're not getting into the playoffs because we both believe Seattle's chomping at the bit.
Yep. All right. So who you got in the National League? Who are your two teams?
This is tough. I think the National League. I think the Giants are there. The Giants are there. They're the top spot right now in the wild card. So I think the Giants are a shoo-in. And I just it hurts to say this. I really think Atlanta is going to somehow move their way into the second spot. But I'm going to be hopeful and say Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be the way it is right now, Giants and Pittsburgh. But really don't be surprised if somehow stupid Atlanta will get to the playoffs yet again. Obviously, I'm a dejected Mets fan who just watches the Braves get in every year. But the Braves are just a game and a half out. They do playoffs, so I hope we can play spoiler to the Braves, which would be great. So for the sake of the podcast, I'm going to say the Giants and the Pirates are going to be the two wild card teams.
Yeah, I got to say I agree with you. In terms of looking at the National League, I don't think Atlanta has enough. I really don't. I think Milwaukee's going to continue crumbling down and just crashing hard at the end of the year. And I said at the beginning of the season that Miami would compete for a wild card. And I'm so happy that they're there now in the conversation because I feel like I can say I was right because I thought that team had great pitching and they had I'm forgetting his name, Hernandez, his last name, right? Who was their agent?
Oh, the Marlins? Yes, it was Jose Fernandez.
Jose Fernandez. Imagine what the record would be with Jose Fernandez in that rotation. You got to think that's at least 10 more wins. At that point, though, they'd be 81 and 62. That's absolutely crazy. And they say they would be competing with Washington at the top of the division if Jose Fernandez was in that rotation right now. So I think that injury looms really large right now, which is why they don't get in. But I agree with you. San Francisco, they got a 3.5-game wild card lead. And I think Pittsburgh hangs on. And I think that the Pirates fans will get playoffs for the second straight year in Pittsburgh, which is something they're definitely not used to.
Yeah, no, that goes without saying. Obviously, Pittsburgh has had their struggles, but yeah, no, I agree, and it's going to be a wacky couple weeks of baseball. September's always fun. We got the start of the NFL, and then you got all these baseball implications. So I just cross my fingers and hope the Yankees don't make playoffs.
Yeah, yes, fingers crossed that doesn't happen. If they finish third below Toronto, it makes me feel even better. Because the lower they finish, the better I feel. It's just a natural thing. But I will say that that Derek Jeter's last game is in Boston. It's absolutely nuts. My roommate, who's a Yankee fan, actually just bought tickets to $250 bleacher seats to watch Derek Jeter's last game at Fenway. So I'm really curious to see what Fenway's reaction is going to be to him. I think it's going to be a long-standing ovation. I think they appreciate what it's going to be, and it's going to be so weird. I'm not going to the game because I can't spot $250. No way. But it's going to be curious to see in my mind what Red Sox fans do and what they give him because he's been the ultimate competitor against them for God knows how long. So that's just a side note. I'm curious to see what the Red Sox do there as the Yankee season comes to a close.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward to end possibly depending if the Yankees make a run or not in the last 20 games. Your last game of your career is going to be in the building of your arch rival, and it's going to be weird to see Red Sox fans giving this guy a standing ovation. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Yankee fans there as well. Taking the trip out to see Derek Jeter's last game. So I mean, I'll be happy because all of this, farewell tour will be over. They had Derek Jeter Day. Apparently, Derek Jeter only had one day to celebrate him retiring. Meanwhile, I think every day of this season has been Derek Jeter Day with the gifts and the standing ovations and stuff like that. It was really drawn out, but that's just me being me. But
I completely agree with you. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's obviously going to be a touching scene. Obviously, Derek Jeter has been the face of baseball for so long, but it's just scheduling MLB had to take a look at that, and it's going to be like, wow. Even on the off chance that the Yankees didn't make the playoffs, he can end his career in Fenway Park. It's going to be an interesting scene, but I don't think he's not going to get one boo. It's going to be a long-standing ovation, and it's going to be nice for Yankee fans to see.
Yeah, so I think Red Sox fans will treat him very classy. And also, a side note, I have on my TV muted right now The Daily Show, and he is right now, based off his body language, is bashing the NFL. So I'm gonna have to stay up late and watch The Daily Show rerun of him bashing Roger Goodell because it looks absolutely hilarious, and I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah,
Side note,
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.